Welcome, everybody, to the Fanmouth Daily Fantasy Baseball Breakdown. Today is Wednesday, April 30th. I'm Joe Marsh, joined today by Dave Del Grande. How you doing, Dave?
Oh, big day in fantasy baseball world today.
Yeah, before we jump into today's games, I'd just like to point something out. We've been doing our Home Run Derby Challenge, where every day, if you've been following us, we pick players who we think are going to hit home runs. We score a point if that player hits a home run that day. It's a lot harder than it sounds. If you'd like to join us, you can always tweet us at PlayFanmouth and join in on the fun. Now, in 10 tries, Dave already has 3 home runs, which is a huge total considering neither Jeff nor I have even got one yet. So, Dave, awesome job there. But obviously, it's going to raise some eyebrows. I just want to ask you point blank, using any kind of performance enhancing supplements, where's all this power coming from?
Well, luck, and even today, I think there are two or three really strong candidates today. In fact, on our grid, I typed in somebody else's name, changed it, went to my second choice, could easily switch to a third choice. And if I had three choices, maybe one of them hits a homer tonight. I toss a coin, try to figure, hopefully I get the right guy. We'll see if that works.
All right. Yeah, Dave's done an awesome job again. Joining the fun. Follow us. Definitely check Dave's advice when he says he thinks someone's going to hit a home run that night. All right. Now we'll go ahead and jump into our lineups. A few weather concerns today. Pirates, Orioles, Mariners, Yankees, Mets, Phillies, maybe even the Rays and Red Sox. The weather looks a little sketchy. I would check it closer to game time and see what we're dealing with at that time. All right. Jumping right into pitcher. I think there are some awesome pitching options out there tonight. For me, it absolutely starts with Tony Cingrani. He's been great at home this year. He's got a 1.35 ERA, struck out 15 in 13.1 innings, and he's facing the Cubs, who are, among the league leaders in strikeouts, among the bottom in the league in runs scored, and they're hitting 209 on the road. So you got a pitcher who pitches well at home against an offense who's terrible on the road. Should be a great matchup. I think that's the top play. I like Zach Greinke a lot. He's got a high price tag, but it's worth it because you're looking at 12.27 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's good enough for third in the league. Pitching in Minnesota, which is a good pitcher's park, and Minnesota is a very good offense, but most of their key offensive players are right-handed hitters. Righties are hitting just 160 against Greinke this season, so I think he has a chance to shut that lineup down. You want to go a lower price option? I do like Shelby Miller, only given up 1 run in his last 3 starts combined. He's got a 2.31 ERA at home. And again, same with the Brewers like with Greinke. Righties are hitting just 200 against Miller, and the Brewers have a lot of righties in their lineup. And it doesn't look like Braun's going to play today. I would check later so Dave, what are you thinking at pitcher?
Well, I agree with your top choice. I think there's two categories of pitchers today. There are two what I would consider to be big-time mismatches if you don't look at the numbers closely, and that's Jordan Zimmerman pitching against Houston is a huge mismatch, and you got Tim Hudson pitching against the Padres. I mean, you got two bad offensive teams. You've got two all-star type pitchers pitching against them. You can't do much better than that. They're both fairly high-priced guys. Now, you also have, to me, the ones where the stats point to this is your pick tonight. And in both of those cases, the prices are much lower. Cingrani's one of them. Like you said, he's pitching great at home. The Cubs are not a good offensive team, particularly against left-handed pitchers. I think that's a very strong play. And Aaron Harang, pitching. Aaron Harang's off to a great start. Atlanta, tonight is at Miami. Miami's not a particularly strong hitting team, especially against right-handers. Harang has been great, as good as any pitcher going so far this year. So I think those 4 pitchers are all worth considering. If you can spend money, Zimmerman and Hudson are your picks. If you want to save a little, Cingrani and Harang are good picks.
Yeah, Hudson's a guy I like a lot. He's only walked 2 batters, this season. I do like Zimmerman, but last time, he had burned me. I went back to him. He burned me again. So now I'm a little bit shell shocked. And then the one guy we didn't even talk about is Yordano Ventura. He may be the fourth or fifth best pitcher going today, but that guy's fun to watch, man. He strikes out a lot of batters. He's got electric stuff. I tend to tune in when he's starting just to watch that guy pitch. Moving over to catcher, a couple good options. I think Posey is the obvious guy if you're spending money. Facing Robbie Erlin, who has a 7.15 ERA on the road this season. Posey's already taken him deep. However, I don't think you need to spend that much at catcher to find a good value. I think Derek Norris is the guy today. He's very quietly hitting 365 on the year, and he's a guy who, like some of the other A's who we'll get to, absolutely crushes left-handers, facing a guy in Ross who struggles against right-handed batters. So I think Norris, for the time being, is a great catching option. What do you think?
I'm willing to spend a little money here today because Posey's starting to heat up a little bit. The thing about the Giants, first off, the Giants are very good against left-handed pitching. They just faced a similar left-hander. I don't know why the Padres pitch these guys back-to-back. A similar style left-handed pitcher. The Giants bombed Stoltz last night. Posey homered off him in the first inning. Posey almost hit a second homer last night. He's starting to catch fire. The Giants are going to score a ton of runs. You mentioned already Erlin, terrible pitcher on the road. Not a very good pitcher anyway. The first game he pitched this year was the second game of a doubleheader the day after a rainout. And pitched a really good game. He has gotten progressively worse. He's coming off his worst effort of the season, I can't recommend Giants more highly today. They bombed Stoltz last night. Tonight they're facing an even weaker pitcher. So I'm going to spend money here, and I'm going to give you Posey, although I do like the Norris selection as well.
Yeah, Norris is actually hitting well against right-handers as well. He was sort of in that split with Jaso, where Jaso faces the righties. I could see Norris picking up more playing times and getting more starts when there's a right-handed pitcher going. Moving over to first base. There were some great options over at first base. I had some trouble paring this down. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off at first base, Dave?
Well, I'll tell you, a home run threat I considered at first base tonight is Ryan Howard. I think he's for a fairly cheap first baseman, I think he's a good pick. They match up well. Bartolo Colon has not pitched well on the road this year. And Phillies hit better against right-handed pitchers. Howard is their best left-hander, obviously their best left-handed power hitter against right-handers. I think he's a very good player at a cheap price. I also like you mentioned, unfortunately, the weather tonight could be a big factor because I think two or three of the games that you mentioned, I rate the Red Sox and the Yankees as two of my top 5 teams to watch tonight. I think both those teams have good matchups tonight, but they're both in rain situations, so it kind of tempers my enthusiasm a little bit. But Napoli of the Red Sox tonight, I think, is also in a good spot. Boston playing Tampa Bay, and Archer has pitched well at home. He's pitched terribly on the road. So I think there's two good first basemen there. I'm going to go with the cheaper one and give you Howard.
Yeah, speaking of teams with players that you like, my absolute top play of the day is the Tigers. They're facing Noesi, who has been terrible out of the bullpen this year. Hasn't started, I don't think, since 2012. Been getting crushed by right-handers this year. Righties are hitting .538 with a 1.533 OPS. He's a career, 5.5 ERA guy. So I like Miguel Cabrera. I would even, if there's a way, maybe you can put him at third, put in Victor Martinez. I'm going to get a lot of Tigers in my lineup today and attack Hector Noesi. So that's where I'm going at first base. Over at second base, a couple of my favorite players to play recently. Scooter Gennett, always a guy I'm going to like. But the big play for me is Anthony Rendon. Last time they faced a lefty, I threw him out there, said, hey, he's 7 for 16 against lefties. Well, he went 3 for 4 in that game. So now he's hitting 10 for 20, 500 against left-handed hitters. So this is the guy I'm just going to put in my lineup, probably one of the first guys I actually set in my lineup, and look for him to have a couple hits for me today. What are you thinking at second base?
I like him. If I were going to spend money at second base, he would be my top choice. I'm going to go with, I want to see the lineups come out, but I'm pretty sure Joaquin Arias is going to be starting tonight for the Giants, either at shortstop or third base. Bochy talked about that Monday night about getting him a start sometime in this series. He hasn't started yet, and he's facing the left-handed pitcher. He's a good hitter. He's very, very cheap. I'm looking to save money at this position with a part-time player, a platoon guy with a good bat. Brandon Hicks has been hitting great for the Giants so well that he's become their full-time player. But at the same time, his price has gone up a little bit. I'm going to go with a little cheaper version. Hope to see Arias in the line. I'm pretty sure he's going to start. He'll probably start at third base tonight against the left-hander. And like I said earlier, I think the Giants are going to, they scored 5 runs last night against the Padre left-hander in 2 2/3 innings. I expect them to bomb this guy as well.
All right, good stuff there. Dave likes his Giants today. Moving over to third base, who you got for me there?
Well, something I guess I should have mentioned before, is there are some afternoon games today, and I'm focusing my picks on the night games. And so you won't hear me talking about some of the guys that you've mentioned earlier. Why am I not agreeing with some of your selections? There's a couple of day games that you've mentioned already that I'm avoiding. They're out there for people to play, and they're welcome to play them, of course. But I'm focusing my my attention on the night games tonight. Third base, I think, to me, Evan Longoria, he was the guy that I originally penciled in as my home run pick. Tampa Bay hits left-handers very well. Dubront has pitched terribly this year for Boston. Obviously, Fenway's a nice home run park for left-handed pitchers against powerful right-handed hitters like Longoria. I think he's an excellent chance to hit a home run tonight. Again, one of the reasons I'm considering, I mentioned before, the pitcher. So much of my lineup is dictated by how much I'm willing to spend at pitcher. If I go with the slightly cheaper pitchers tonight, now I'm going to be able to get guys like Posey and Longoria into the lineup. I think he's a great play at third base.
Yeah, I do like Longoria a good amount. Also, a guy, Josh Donaldson, you got to love him when there's a lefty pitching. He's got a 1.049 OPS against lefties this season. He's only got 4 at-bats versus Ross, but he's got a couple hits, and one of those being a home run. So I think that's a great play as well. Over to shortstop, who you got?
Well, I talk about spending money. If I could afford Tulowitzki the way he's hitting at a nice hitter's ballpark, they're not at home, but they got the next best thing. They're playing at Arizona. They've already played a couple high-scoring games there. I had him as a home run pick, but 2 days ago when he hit a homer. He also homered last night, but he's probably out of my price range. I'll tell you the guy that I like tonight. I already mentioned the Escobar tonight is a high average hitter and against a good facing a weak pitcher tonight. I think he's an outstanding selection, a cheap shortstop to put in there. He's going to be my play tonight at shortstop.
All right. Yeah, I like Tulowitzki a ton, too. I mean, he's been insanely hot lately. 10 hits and 5 home runs over his last 7 games, hitting .419 against lefties. Again, it may be tough to fit him into your lineup. So for a cheaper option, I would go with Billy Hamilton. He's hitting a bit better lately. He's hit 13 of his last 39, but mostly we're going after the stolen bases with this guy. Wellington Castillo has thrown out 2 of 20 base runners. So Hamilton got on first yesterday. He ran both times. It's going to be the same today. If he can get on, he's going to be taken off. I think he can steal against Castillo at a high rate. So for sites that are paying high for stolen bases, get Billy Hamilton in your lineup today. Lastly, moving on to the outfield. Who do you like?
Well, outfield is a position where I like to save money. There's so many good options. There's a lot of guys platooning. I usually look for low-price guys in good spots, but there's some really, really strong outfield plays tonight that I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit them all in there. They're not the real heavyweight price guys, but I don't know that I can play all 3 of these guys, but they're all worth playing. And Jason Worth, is probably my play of the day today. Kills left-handers. Washington's facing a weak left-handed or mediocre, let's say, left-handed pitcher in a home run park in Houston. I think he's a tremendous play tonight in the outfield. I think and Beltran and Soriano. Both powerful right-handed hitters. Well, of course, Beltran's a switch hitter, but guys who would be batting right-handed. The Yankees facing a weak left-handed pitcher from Seattle, a young guy pitching in Yankee Stadium. And the Yankees are going to tee off against this guy. I could have used any of these guys. Again, I considered Worth as my home run guy, but I just look at Soriano. Soriano's one of those guys who he's swinging for the fences basically every time he swings the bat. I think he's going to connect with one or two tonight against the weak Seattle pitcher. So he's going to be my home run pick for the day. But I think all three of those guys are close to being must plays. Now, can you afford all three of them? I don't know. I mean, it's not like I'm giving you Trout and Harper and some other really high-priced outfielder. These guys are, a notch below that price-wise. You're going to have to save money somewhere else to play, two or three of these guys. But I strongly recommend all three of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on Soriano. That's a great play. Another guy who you can consider with the same line of thinking would be Cespedes. Cespedes is dirt cheap. He's a guy who crushes left-handers. Facing Ross, who again is not great against righties. I think for a cheap outfielder in a GPP, Cespedes makes a great play. Charlie Blackmon again is a good play against lefties. He's hitting .417 against left-handers this year, facing subpar lefty and Wade Miley. So I think there are a lot of good options there. Will Myers is another really cheap guy. Typically when there's a lefty, he hits third right in front of Longoria. Off to kind of a slow start, but I still like that spot for him there.
Well, and I would be remiss not to mention the Giants. I've already mentioned a couple of Giants players, but all three Giants are recommended in this game. You've got Pagan, who led off last night's game with a homer. You've got Pence, who's heating up, had a big game last night. And, of course, you have Morse, who's been their most powerful hitter, throughout the year. Seems to drive in runs every game, their leader in RBIs. I mean, all three of them, especially Pence and Morse, eat up left-handers. Man, I wouldn't want to be a left-handed pitcher facing this lineup because it's a very powerful lineup. But usually at AT&T Park, it's more of a pitcher-friendly park. But game time temperature last night was like 75 degrees, unseasonably warm there. Not a surprise that the Giants, hit a couple of home runs right off, two in the first inning last night. Wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again today. So, I already mentioned three outfielders I really like. These are three other guys I easily could have found a spot for, and they're cheaper than the first three guys I gave you. So it's a good chance that I'm going to have to, put at least one of them interspersed with the other guys.
All right, good stuff there. That wraps up all the positions. Dave, you want to go ahead and give us a final word today?
Well, usually I'm all about the pitching, and I think that Zimmerman tonight against the Astros and Hudson tonight against the Padres, I'm always looking to play against the Astros and the Padres, and you've got the best Giants pitcher, or the guy's been going the best, and one of the most talented young pitchers in the game going against Houston. So it's like those almost seem like no-brainers. But in order to play those guys, I'm going to have to cut back at some of the positions. As I said, most times I would do that. Tonight I really like, tonight I think Washington, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Boston, and New York all have great hitting matchups. And when you get those teams involved, especially Boston and New York, you get a lot of high-priced guys. So, pick your poison today. You're going to go and spend the money on the pitchers, or you're going to go for these sluggers in really good spots. Maybe I'm just tired of watching, picking pitchers. I'm going to go with hitters tonight, and so I'll probably go a cheaper route with my pitchers. Cingrani is a great pick for a slightly cheaper price. I mentioned Harang as a guy who's pitched really well. You get him at a cheap price as well. This will allow you to get a couple of more big hitters in the lineup. So I'm looking for a big offensive night tonight from my team. So stay out of the way or you're going to get hurt.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on those pitchers. I would add Hudson and Zimmerman to Cingrani and Greinke. I think Cingrani is the overall top play. I will for sure have him starting tonight. I like my A's right-handed hitters: Derek Norris, Josh Donaldson. and Yoenis Cespedes. I think those guys are great plays. Don't overlook Anthony Rendon. That's a guy I'm going to be sticking right in my lineup. And Billy Hamilton, I think, is going to steal at least one base tonight. That wraps it up for today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much, Dave. We will be back tomorrow.